Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I'm your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful, lovely co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Hey, y'all. It's Thursday. No Love Day. Let's go.
I know they're like, yeah, right. It's been 2 weeks since we've seen y'all. It's No Love Day when y'all finally get here. I'm gonna say what y'all wouldn't.
God, family.
I'm gonna say what you think, but won't say. But you're definitely right. God, family, business. You know
God,
how we
business.
Have our priorities in order here.
I do believe he honors that, and today I believe he's gonna show up, and we're gonna have a good time. So, amen for that.
So, but it is good to know that you all are a priority. But after God, family, and business, you all are definitely a priority. And actually, you all are helpers of the work that I feel that I have been placed on this earth to assist with God spreading this thing called love. So you all are definitely a priority and actually help. How you doing, Tiffany? Good to see you. She waved. Nice to meet you. Okay, so you know how we do, Michelle. It's been 2 weeks. Something's got to be going on, or something has to have happened, or you got to have something on your mind. What's going on? What you been up to?
Been in the workshop.
All right, let's do it.
Hold on, I got you loud on my phone for some reason. I don't know how that worked, but I'm sharing with my friends, so hopefully some of y'all show up. It'd be great to see y'all. It's been I think tired is one word, but enlightened is another, right? I just am so grateful to be alive at a time like this, but tired of some of the things that have been happening. But what God is so awesome at, is reminding you of your purpose in the midst of whatever it is. And so I can say that some of the time away has been spent investing and pouring into friends who had need at the time. And there's, benefit in that, God, family, business. And then on the business side, I am so grateful that in the midst of this, where transition is taking place in my workplace, God provided a way of escape. So it's a smooth transition. So for every no, there's a yes. And just knowing, like, again, God, family, business, putting God first has been the joy of this experience, because he keeps surprising me. Keeps surprising me. And I'm just like, did y'all saw that, right? How'd that happen? Amen, won't he do it? So I'm humbled by that. And I was just joking before we got on. So Queen's Moves is in hiatus for 30 days to come back out in July. And I just had this photo shoot. I don't do photos. I don't put my face out there. But I have fun, and I can't wait to share. And in July, we're going to have another Queen's Moves, and I'll be telling you. But, oh, my God, the testimonies that have come out of that, the clients that have come out of that, just having a safe space to share your soul in a way that pours back into you to strengthen you has been just a joy to do for people. And a blessing to hear the testimonies from it. So Queen's Moves is about to pop off, and I'm just getting ready.
Did y'all see the bounce with the shoulders and the confidence and the hand movement? Queen Moves is about to pop off. Yes, I love that energy, that confidence. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it.
Oh my God, that was even like something this week. Oh my gosh, I had spoken a couple months ago about I am enough, right? And I still have insecurities in some areas. But last night I went through this, I don't know if it was a regression, but just really getting in tune with where the insecurity came from. It brought it back out, addressed it, and putting I am enough on my mirror was one of the tasks of the workshop. I'm gonna tell you something. Little things have huge impact. I can't even document to you when or how, but just writing in lipstick on my mirror, I am enough. For the past couple of days, I have seen a shift in my countenance. And it's not something, I can't tell you when, but I will tell you if you got some insecurities, it might be something you want to try. Just try it for a week, see what happens.
That's good. That's good. Because I can assure you, you are a product of whatever you're whispering to your subconscious on a daily basis. So if you have some lipstick to remind you to say I am enough on a daily basis, I can assure you that will plant some seeds into your subconscious. So I can see how that would definitely contribute to a shift in your countenance. That's what's up. I'm excited for you. And I already know I'm a part of the journey, so I'm kind of excited for us if I want to be selfish.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So I know I'll be there wherever that is, wherever there is. I'll be there eventually with you. So I'm excited for us.
I'm excited for us too. I'm excited.
Me, I'm tired. So
right?
Your choice of word is tired. I'm not sharing. Nope. I'm not sharing. Just know that I'm working extremely hard. Some days I might not sleep for 2 days straight, but I'm definitely I find time to rest sometimes, I guess. But I'm grinding. I'm grinding, and I promise you it's for y'all. But I said that I'm going to do this differently because if you want something done differently, you got to do different things. So I'm doing this differently. That's why I'm not saying anything. Typically I say stuff, what's going on, what's about to happen. When this happens, it's just going to happen. I will share it with you all, and I promise you, you will see the fruits of some serious labor and some birth pains. So just know that I'm working. Please keep me in your prayers. Pray my health and my strength. Because I'm just the type of person that if I have something that I can get done, I'll have a hard time sleeping until it does get done. I do a little better with sleeping when it's stuff that's out of my control because I can't control it. But when the baton is in my hand, please believe me, it's going to get done. And I have problems with resting until it does. So that's why sometimes I have days without me going to sleep. So I've also been pouring into myself so that I can pour into you all. And with that, I came across a story of a boy that I'm going to share with you all so that I can better teach and relay the message of today's topic. This wasn't even supposed to be the topic of 2 weeks ago. So you know how the man upstairs does. He'll shift my focus and say, no, this is actually what you're going to be teaching on today. So the actual title of today's topic is why you must be first. Why you must be first. And I'm going to read the story that I heard, which pretty much sums why you should be first, but then we'll break down the 3 things that you should at least start with, making sure that you're first at. Okay, so I'm gonna read the story. The story goes as such. It says, there's a story of a little boy with lots of pretty marbles, but he was constantly eyeing his sister's bag full of candy. One day he said to her, if you give me all of your candy, I'll give you all of my marbles. She gave it much thought and agreed to trade. He took all of her candy and went back to his room to get his marbles. But the more he admired his marbles, the more reluctant he became to give all of them up. So he hid the best of his marbles under his pillow and took the rest of them to his sister. That night, his sister slept peacefully, but he tossed and turned restlessly, unable to sleep, thinking, I wonder if she gave me all of her candy. Yeah. So this story pretty much embodies why it is imperative, why it is important for us to go first. Because the reason why he had trouble sleeping is because he had trouble believing that she was honest because he wasn't honest. So we are all reflections of what we kind of interpret other people to be or to be like. So with that being said, today we are going to discuss the 3 things that we must, especially when it comes to relationships with ourselves, which in turn translate to relationships with others, which in turn evolves into romantic relationships with others, children, and it just grows and evolves from there. But most importantly, your relationship with yourself. And if I could be so transparent, the most important relationship would be also with God. So if you don't see you as a certain way first, you're definitely going to have a problem with even seeing or believing that he can do what he's already promised to do for you. So let's jump into this topic. Before I do so, anything you want to share in reference to the short story?
Oh my gosh, the only thing I thought when he said when he was under the bed and looking at stuff, I was like, he's projecting, completely projecting. I must be dishonest, so therefore somebody else must be dishonest. And God knows we have all been in that moment.
That's exactly right. Most certainly. Of course. Again, which is why we have to be first. And the first thing that we have to be first, especially in times like this, we have to be first to listen. We have to be first to listen. And listening and hearing are definitely 2 different things. Hearing is realizing or recognizing a sound. Listening is taking the time to interpret what that sound is, what it means, and coming up with the conclusion based off of the information that you have allowed yourself to dissect when hearing. So it's more of a student ear as opposed to a passive ear. So
active listening.
No, most certainly, definitely active listening. So the way that you can identify with listening or even share with another person that you are listening is definitely by saying, I hear you. Definitely not by saying, I understand. If you share, for one, best practices that I typically teach to help other people realize or understand that I am listening, is I will typically either share in my own words what it is that they said to me. That way, because I did not parrot exactly what they said back to me, and I took the time to rephrase it in a manner that makes it mine, that lets them know for sure that I am listening. That's one way. Another way is to share a analogy or a story of how you can relate to what it is that they're saying so that they can see that you definitely have been listening to what it is that I'm saying, possibly even empathize with what I'm saying, but at the same time, you really don't agree with what I'm saying, because that's typically when
yes.
That's typically when I have to take these measures, because what I can assure you, which is unfortunate, is that when you agree with people, they don't question whether you're listening. I can assure you that.
It's a trick. Let me just tell you, it's a trick I use, so I'm not engaged. So if they just move on.
So when you agree with people, you're not gonna get too much pushback. Yep. It's when you question them or when you do not agree or jump on their bandwagon is when you're gonna get pushback, which in turn is going to make it necessary for you to have to give those, share in your own words what it is that they said. Give them an analogy or a metaphor or even a story that shows them or yourself in a predicament that is aligned with what it is that they're talking about, and then say, and I still don't agree. or I still don't, I still like, I just don't, I don't feel the way that you feel. I don't have your views, but I can definitely say I understand where you're coming from. This is not going to be a long show at all, these three, but again, the story encompasses why it's important, but we need to kind of dissect and go over the three things that we must do first in order for us to be successful at communicating, interpreting, and giving people the ability to actually be who we would want them to be, so that we're even receptive to when they are that. When oftentimes we do have people that that are what we would want them to be, but we can't even receive it because as a young boy, ruined for himself was the ability to trust her.
It becomes unconscious bias to some degree. It becomes the bias that you carry with you, and if you're not careful and don't catch it at its root, it's easy to just become a part of who you are, and it becomes a part of your filter, and you can find yourself just prejudging, right, or making assumptions without any proof. The conspiracy theory that we like to come up with, and living that way as if it's truth, and it's really not.
Most certainly.
Let's just go back to my I am enough, right? Why am I having to put on my mirror I am enough? Because at some point I started to believe something that was not true and started to live as if it was true. But when I go back and check in with myself, I realize, why would I think I'm not enough? Because I believe something somebody else told me or something I felt and put it as a fact, and it colored my behavior. That doesn't mean it was truth. And I get the privilege of being able to, as you said, going back and checking in with yourself and saying, should I have believed that? Not sure.
Now you just added a layer to the depth of why we must listen first. We need to add to it. You need to pay attention to what you're listening to first, because this is why, and people sometimes think that I'm obsessive about it. Like, I do not play with my subconscious. Like, I don't play with my subconscious mind at all. Like one iota. Even all that is going on in this world, I promise you, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it sounds like. I just know what it is. And that's because, unfortunately, right now we are dealing with cycles, not seasons. And even if we were dealing with seasons, I would still be able to recognize the season. So which in turn, a lot of people are refocusing, readjusting what it is that they were doing, but I'm consistently doing what it is that my purpose was to do, which this and all that is going on is just confirming that I need to be focused on what it is that I'm doing. And if I lose focus, the enemy has won, taking me off of my my momentum, so to speak, and ruin the timing of when what it is that I've been creating and working on and what I'm doing to be released in the manner that it's supposed to be. So you definitely need to be mindful of what you're listening to, and also the way to do that when it comes to no love is to make sure that what you're listening to is going to contribute to peace. That's what I always seek in anything. I'm looking for peace in my interactions, in my rest, and my environment. And that can be a perspective, but it can also be with the moving or maneuvering people that are in your lives and the things that are actually being fed into your subconscious. So you most certainly need to be attentive about what it is that you're listening to, catch it, adjust it when you notice that it's negative, because all it's going to do is shift the way that your perspective and your views are to align with what it is that you're feeding your subconscious. As Michelle so eloquently shared, she's been listening to something that has her having to shift the way that she feels about herself as an individual. It took me years to do that. I'm glad I caught it at a younger age, to where me at 38 years old now, that is definitely not a problem.
Not your issue.
Yeah, that is so not my issue. Which actually is why I'm so passionate about making it not you all's issue, because I promise you, the way that you maneuver through life, the way that you choose your relationships, the way that you live your life, and the way that you have the ability to accomplish your purpose, it's very easy. Because you're not concerned about what other people think about you. You're not concerned about what other people feel about you. You are you, loving you, and unapologetically you, and which in turn allows for you to become who it is that you were created to be. Before I transition to the second thing that you must first be, anything you want to add to we must listen first?
I think it's a lesson that is repeated. I think it has to become a habit. I think there are different areas in your life where you may be good at it. Like you may be good at listening at work and not at home. You may be good at listening in friendships and not in love relationships. I think it's something that we have to just constantly check in and monitor. But I will say, when it comes up, what's the blessing of this is that when it comes up, it's really just God showing you. Right? Like it's not even like when it comes up, it's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, not woe is me, but whoa, what do I need to do? And I've just learned to stop suppressing things and start letting them come up and addressing them. And that is one of those things that I just think keeps coming up. The more you is listening, learning to listen in one area doesn't mean you learn to listen in all areas. And you have to keep making that decision over and over again. When you find that there's an area you're not listening because you have some blinders on or some filters, whoa, hold on, let me pause for a second and actively listen and see if they're saying what I really think that they're saying. And you said this before in a couple of different episodes, was learn how to ask good questions and be quiet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most certainly. And another thing that you said, which is why I tend to use analogies that are outside of relationships when it is that I'm talking about love and knowing love, is love, even when we're talking about listening and the other two that I will share, they from the #9 standpoint, which is truth for those who are new to this, and truth means something is, no matter when, where, why, it just is always. That's what truth is. There are things that are true, TRUE, and there's things that are truth. So it is true that depending on where you are right now, it could be dark outside. It is also true that depending on where you are, that it could be light outside if you're on the West Coast or a different hemisphere. And actually, because it's now summer, it might just be light now, where typically in a different season it could be dark right now. So at that time, that is true. But if I do this or say that at 8 o'clock in the morning, it might be broad daylight. So that's true. At that moment, that is what true. We might say that would be fact. That's a fact. Truth, on the other hand, is something that no matter the time, no matter the place, no matter the situation or the circumstance, it is. And that is what love is. And love, when it comes to listening, it doesn't mean you change your listening habits at work or with your kids or with your wife or whatever. That means you are just a good listener when you're coming or listening from a place of love. When you're loving, it's not loving just your family members, your friends, or what have you. Love is, you either have that and you're either operating in it or being love, or you're not. If you have to turn it on and turn it off, you have yet to reach that place of being, and that's what we're working on in the first place. So anytime I'm sharing anything, when it comes, even if I'm talking to people that are single and dating for that date, I can assure you what I'm sharing, it will, because I'm sharing from a place of truth, it is definitely going to be applicable when it comes to your relationship. Matter of fact, we've all, from the No Love Triangle, everything is built from the foundation of the self-interest aspect, which is what you should be doing coming from when you are dating. So whenever we're speaking about something, it's not an on-off switch. When we're talking about love, love is. If you have to turn it on or off, you're not walking in love, you're walking in acting, and more than likely manipulation. And you have yet to understand what love is. And I need you to go ahead and listen to the old shows to get caught up to where we are right now. So I'm gonna jump off of that so we can transition to the second thing that you must be if we're going to be successful at relationships, whether it be romantic, just interacting with persons. The second thing that you must be first at is speaking. So first, you have to be first at listening. Second, you have to be first at speaking. And what do I mean by being first at speaking? I'm saying you need to be first at speaking when it comes to apologizing. You need to be the first at speaking when it comes to saying I love you. That can be tricky. Like, oh, I want him or her to say I love you first. So if they don't, does that mean you don't love them? It is what it is. So you either love them or you don't. And also when doing so and being the first to do these things, it literally gives people permission to do it as well. And what I found in just my life in general and in my walk is the things that I do that typically are not common for a guy or whatever. I've literally had men either inbox me or come to the side and be like, hey man, prior to me seeing you doing that, I wasn't okay, but you kind of made it okay for me to worship the way that I worship, to cry. Like I literally did a interview on like a TV program where my son was reading, and when we discussed why that was our favorite book, it was a book of I am affirmations. I broke down and I started crying, sharing how appreciative I was about the actual book. And the guy was like, I just want to thank you for you just being able to cry in front of your son and the audience and listening. And I'm looking like, did my son look uncomfortable or like it was new to see me cry? He was like, no, he didn't. And I'm like, that's because I have no problems crying in front of my child. I definitely teach my children that they are to be in tune with their feelings, not allow for their feelings to determine their decision making, but acknowledge their feelings, don't suppress them, and then think about why they feel that way and get to the root of where that came from so that they can move forward. And he just said he applauded it and he thanked me for it. I'm saying all that to say, when we make these gestures, listening, again, apologizing first. For one, when you speak first or speak love first or speak anything positive first, or just accept a fault or a flaw or a failure, a temporary failure, whatever you want to call it, and you own it and you share it, that only allows for the person or the recipient of that to do it themselves. And one thing that I can definitely speak to, my wife, she cuts when you slip up or whatever, she'll jump on it real quick. But I also see that when she slips up, she's extremely hard on herself. And I'm like, babe, it's really okay. I did hear you say you apologize, but the only reason why she's so hard on herself is because she's also hard on other people, which, like the young boy in the story in the beginning, it makes it hard for her to be a certain way to herself because she's not that way to other people always. So again, when we are the ones that do it first, I apologize. I share. I explain how hurtful that could have come across. And when I do that, I am done. Like, and that's why we've had these conversations about interactions where it might be with my spouse. If we have a disagreement, she might need a few or 2 days when I'm like, well,
I'm done.
We had that conversation a few days ago, and I'm tapping her on her side like, hey, I have not lost any love, and I'm looking towards acting on it. Can we get past this? Like, we've shared our differences, and I don't feel any different about you. If anything, I've learned something new about you that we can grow and maneuver a certain way from, but I don't feel any different. I love you, and that is what it is. So we need to be the first to speak, to share our love. We need to be the first to speak, to share our faults and our shortcomings, so that we give people the opportunity and even the privilege to do it themselves. Michelle, go ahead.
I think it's true that we need to own it, because it takes the sting out of it. But I was interestingly distracted over in the projecting thing, like from the story of the young boy with the marbles holding them back and then projecting on the other person, like you're saying, right? And I'm just like, it's a bad thing in that if you're assuming bad intent because you have bad intent. But there's another notion of that, which is when you realize that you are not perfect, to your point, you can extend grace to someone else, because they may not be perfect, but that doesn't mean they're not coming from a good place. Because you're not perfect, but it doesn't always mean you're coming from a bad place. He just genuinely was like, I'm not sure I want to give it all up. It wasn't like he wanted to hurt his sister. But same thing, you can extend grace to somebody else when you realize there's potentially other things they were thinking about other than what you're asking, which is why active listening is so important, because there's so many other things being said other than what's coming out of your mouth. Your facial is like, I'm very animated, but I could say something very harsh, but all of this is saying, but I'm happy. Like you gotta be present and take it all in to be an active listener. And I think that when you can actively listen to yourself, and I think that's what I was kind of distracted by, and remembering that why when things come up now, I let them out is because I'm actually actively listening to myself, not trying to hide from myself.
Yeah. And that is perfect, because remember, in this thing called love, like you have to first learn to love yourself in order for you to succeed at loving other people. So if we're bringing all this from a love standpoint, when we're talking about speaking, you have to, we were just talking about that when you're talking about writing, whether you say it out loud or not, you writing I am enough on your mirror and reading that, the reading is you speaking. It might not be audible to where you hear it, but if I put up a sign, if you're looking at my shirt, the shirt says King, just because you didn't say it out loud doesn't mean you did not say it. We are just physical beings, but our spirits are really what's speaking. So that's why I'm very, very protective of my subconscious mind, because these are the things that are being said to me, to my spirit. So when we're speaking, and which is why I have no problems with the forgiving, is because I've literally gone through the process that I try to bring you all through. I've forgiven myself, which in turn allows for me to accept my imperfections, which also allows for me to accept other people's imperfections and really give them the forgiveness that I've given myself. And also to believe that I'm forgiven because I've forgiven myself. Because when you are the first one to do it, you have true evidence that it can be done. But if you say that you have forgiven, but you really didn't, and you really are holding all of this anger and bitterness and frustration towards the person, to where when they come into the room, you feel uncomfortable, you're not going to believe, even when you have been forgiven, especially from God, that you that you can be forgiven, even when it's done, when you've had the act of forgiveness done to you, when you've had the act of love. If you have not loved yet, you can't even receive it from other people. So you literally block your ability to receive what you don't first do. So if you go in, and I'm asking us to go in all the way in on doing everything first, that is the evidence that it can be done, because everything, most of the things I'm gonna say that we believe can be done is based off of what we do ourselves, which is why we oftentimes prevent, especially our children, from walking in their purpose, because we don't support them and encourage them, even our spouses, to do what it is that they were purposed to do, because we're basing it off of our abilities and our know-how. So, but the things that we can do and we try to push and try to get them to do is because we believe that it can be done, because we know we can do it. So if we are the first to do it, it allows for us to receive it, but it also allows for us to be what it is that we aspire to be towards other people. Before I shift to the last and third one, it's not a long show. got any thoughts about?
I just was thinking that we often love from our limitations.
Mm-hmm.
We love as much as we can love,
That's
but
good.
we're loving from our limitations, just like you're saying about your children, or our children. I mean, I'm guilty too, right? But I have to say I was very blessed because I believed more was possible. I always have believed in possibilities. I did encourage my children to push past the norm and not to go straight. If they didn't feel like a straight line was where they need to go, then don't, because your purpose is going to take you where you need to be. And I don't know what that is, which is evolving all the time. But I was never limited by possibilities. Now, so